didn't want us to talk about the expansion, they shouldn't have sent us the Captain Kirk expansion for Squadrons. It's their own fault, really.
I was more of a fan of the Picard one too.
Well, that's not till next year. Oh shit, we're live.
Oh, are we live? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's NDA, guys. You can't talk about that.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, still the only Star Wars podcast from all of our research. Joining me for this episode, as always, first off, we have my co-host, good friend, and gooder boy, Mr. Eckhart Slatter. How are you doing, Eck?
I was doing pretty good until you called me a good boy. I don't like that.
Then don't use the dog profile picture. We've been over this. And second, we have a return of our first guest. His record in the Schmodown is only beaten by his record against Eckhart Slatter in Star Wars Squadrons. Star Wars Explained. Alex, how are you doing?
I mean, that's funny, but it's incorrect. Ek retaliated by sending me video footage of him just slaughtering me.
See, I've only seen the video footage of you killing him, so as far as I'm
that's
concerned...
all you need.
Yeah. Like...
And there's like 16 minutes of it as well.
Well, I got to your Q&A video, Alex, at like the exact moment that you were like, oh, this is me killing Eckhart Slatter, so...
You're talking a lot of shit for someone who's essentially scrawny Star Wars Explained, Corey. Before Star Wars Explained, so...
I thought you were going to make some sort of joke about me not playing Squadrons at all yet, but even though you told me right before that you were going to make that joke, this was pre-planned material.
I wouldn't use my my privilege in that way.
You can only work off a script. But today, we are talking about Star Wars Alphabet Squadron, Shadowfall. This is technically my copy. It has a lot of other books in it too. But yeah, any news you want to talk about?
I can show off the
actual cover. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, any news we want to talk about first? Not really. First of all, I'm feeling a little not sick, just stuffed up. So if you guys watch or listen to this entire podcast, you'll probably hear a really epic voice crack at one point. So make sure you get to the end. And let me know which one is your favorite down in the comments or the podcast comments.
Make sure to leave a timestamp so we can all see it. We'll put it in a highlight reel at the end of the year.
Top 10 Eckart's voice cracks.
Other than that, we did sort of mess up last episode. So our original plan was to do a re-ranking of everything we've read so far. But it turned out that Thursday fell on the same day as the Halo Infinite reveal. We were going to put our live reaction to that up as a podcast, but it just didn't really work that well. So unfortunately, no episode last week, but we will make it up next week. We're gonna do the ranking then, and then what's the plans for after that, Corey? I can't remember.
I don't think we've picked a book for the following episode, but the episode after that, we're gonna do the general Star Wars TV show episode, because that was actually the one we missed last week. So your retraction, your correction needed a correction. This will just all be covered in the highlight video at the end of the year as well. So yeah, we won't be ranking this book at the end of the episode because that would probably be mean to Alex. I guess he could just rank between Wraith Squadron and Alphabet Squadron because those. Yeah, so let us know what you think there. Do you have an opinion on how Alphabet Squadron so far is compared to the X-Wing books?
I am still I think X-Wing is always going to kind of win out for me. I don't know that I see any book topping that. I will fully admit I'm a sucker for nostalgia and what drew me into something in the first place. So I'm an original trilogy stan all the way, and the X-Wing books were some of my first Star Wars books, the ones that really made me love reading about Star Wars. So I think those are probably always going to be my top.
So did you have expectations going into Alphabet Squadron that it would be a certain way based off that, or were you kind of open for it to just be its own thing?
I think just seeing how the rest of the newer books had gone, I wasn't expecting it to be all that much like the old X-Wing books. And I don't know that I would say that they are, but I still really, really like reading about flying. I mean, the first few pages of this one, and it's just like Will Lark and his A-Wing, and just the way Alexander Freed writes about him flying, I was like, oh, this feels good. This feels like reading back in middle school, the first X-Wing books.
You could read in middle school.
Yeah, it's rare for an American, but
Oh, that's not what I meant. But there we go. I have to agree. I really enjoyed the space combat a lot more in this book. I've kind of we talked about this the last time we covered Alphabet Squadron. I was really put off by the book the first time I read it, and then I came to like it like a lot last time. And for me at least, this book was actually an improvement in almost every aspect. It was a little more self-contained, which I didn't like. But I thought the setting was cool enough, and it was kind of cool to be on like basically shit Coruscant for a long time. And yeah, that first scene where they're flying through and it's like actually a really large scale battle, and they're trying to take this planet and they're doing attack runs on walkers and stuff. That was really cool.
Yeah, I didn't expect. So when they started talking about, oh, we're going to start going for Coruscant soon, I almost expected halfway through the book they're just getting to invading Troith, and I thought, okay, this is going to be this little middle section, and then the rest of the book's going to be preparing for Coruscant. But the majority of the book really is just what happens after that initial invasion, and that's kind of different from what we see in a lot of Star Wars books, especially if you're kind of basing your pacing expectations off of X-Wing, where usually it'll be Battle 1 section, Battle 2 section, Battle 3 end of book. It's a bit less formulaic than that, but if you were trying to make like a general idea of what the pacing was, so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, there's like the way the book is structured is kind of interesting. I actually, it's a bit of a refreshing experience compared to the other X-Wing books and Alphabet Squadron, which are basically, you have one mission that starts the book off, usually pretty separate from the others. Then you've got an eventual goal and sort of 3 missions to get to the end of that is usually how it goes. In this book, there's kind of the main plot is that Alphabet Squadron is trying to track and capture Shadow Squadron or kill Shadow Squadron. So they set this trap on in the system they're in. Shadow Squadron shows up. They completely skip the trap and just end up routing basically the New Republic there. And then the rest of the book is kind of everyone just coming back together in the aftermath of that.
it's definitely much more character driven than plot driven. Like, and that's something I know we've talked about this probably in the Wraith Squadron episode where you know, when the books were like the backbone of Star Wars storytelling, that's kind of where you had to see things happen. And they were like, yeah, the first 2 books are about Rogue Squadron taking Coruscant. Like, that's the plot. And when you go into Alphabet Squadron, it's like, well, yeah, it's about them hunting the Shadow Wing or Squadron or whatever they are. And but it's so much about the characters and just what they're all doing and going through.
Yeah.
And these are some really complicated characters too, because I kind of thought after the first book that they were on their way to healing like most of the wounds, but by the end of this book, most of them, I guess besides Nath is in a better place and Will is in a better place, I would say, or in an equal place as he was in the last episode. But like Erica, you know, spoiler alert, she decides to join back up with Shadow Wing. Which is probably not pretty epic for everyone else in her squad. And then, yeah, it's just Kairos is some sort of lizard thing. And Chas is still in a really rough spot. I really like Chas's storyline, actually, because she's dealing with this, like, childhood trauma. And it's kind of hard to actually read how this cult she joins, like, what their actual intentions are, because everything is seen through her kind of perspective.
I wonder if that's going to come back at all, if that cult is something that's building, or were they just in the Troith area and then we're going to leave them and we'll never see him again.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of just there for the Chas backstory. I don't know, maybe it'll be like a general theme and we'll see other cults like that in the galaxy, or non-Jedi religious force groups that kind of tie into what Chas is doing, or we'll even get the one that she was part of, which I think would be the most likely outcome there. But I don't know if we'll get the followers or children of the Corn. I forget who it was.
Like Dead Sun or Cold Sun or something.
It's definitely the children of the Corn.
Okay, we're going to stick with that for the rest of the episode, I think.
The Corn. The children of the Corn.
Those great X-Wing tie-ins that we got. So actually, on
Oh, sorry, go
that,
ahead.
just with Irika and X-wing tie-ins, did either of you kind of get Tycho vibes from her in some parts of that? There was part where she was flying that shuttle, and it felt kind of like that battle where Tycho
Yeah.
was still under suspicion, and he ends up saving Corrin with just the tractor beams on the
Mm-hmm.
shuttle because he wasn't allowed to use armed stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me Tycho vibes there.
Yeah, except she was actually guilty and
Yeah.
Tycho
Yeah.
wasn't.
Well,
And
it's an interesting parallel,
yeah.
especially when like yeah, she's thrown under suspicion because they just found out
Mhm.
that she was like going along with Operation Cinder and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Uh, yeah, I hadn't really made that connection. That's good.
That like bit alone does kind of show the difference between the two books
Mhm.
because I don't know if there is like a clean redemption for Erica Quell. She's actually a really well written and very tragic character because there's just probably no coming back from what she did. Like I don't think like I was kind of waiting for the point that she does something or that there's one thing that lets her redeem herself within her squad, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think she might end up as a tragic dead character at the end of the next book. Or at least I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. Like so the chapter where she is basically trying to break into that
Sith thing.
observatory or
Yeah.
citadel, whatever you want to call that, like it basically. I totally agree. It's a tragic thing, but I feel like it was basically forcing her to go to the dark side in order
Mm-hmm.
to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that tower was like influencing her, and if that's what drove her to join the Empire
Mm-hmm.
again. And maybe it'll wear off, or maybe it just did inundate her with like, look how terrible you were, and look at how much
Mm-hmm.
pain you've caused, and she's like, you know what, you're right. Like, why try to pretend to be anything else?
Yeah.
I
I don't
kind
know.
of I kind of got the opposite feeling from that whole section where like Ito and the temple were
Rest in
forcing her
peace.
to look into the things that she had done, which she had always tried to like pass off as like it happened, but this isn't my responsibility. I'm trying to do something else now. It was more that she was running away, and whatever her redemption arc would be, she can't be redeemed until she starts taking responsibility for the things she did. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the farthest thing from her mind because throughout the first book and a good part of the second, it was just how can I stop Cairn from telling people what I've done? But
Mm-hmm.
now he told everyone. She had to face it internally, and I got more the feeling that she was going back to Shadow Wing as kind of a saboteur situation because she understands that her squadron is not going to trust her anymore.
Mm.
I think there's potential for that,
Yeah.
definitely. But you bring up a good point. Like, I do wonder if her defection and then her staying with the New Republic, it's like it does feel like it's a lot about just survival, me doing
Mm-hmm.
what I have to do to survive, and not doing what I'm doing because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely still room for improvement for her.
I feel like a lot of the book, to me, what I picked up on is about kind of vilifying your enemies or not understanding them at the very least. Because the reason why, what's his name again? The Imperial Ace. The Ace of
Soren
Aces.
Keys?
Yeah, Soren Keys, which is a really good Star Wars name. The reason why Soren Keys is back is basically because the New Republic just won't let him live his life.
Yeah.
And like Erika did the wrong thing, but ultimately she was put in a really tough position because no one's expecting to, she was in basically a family, and it's hard to break away from your family even if you are doing terrible things.
Mhm.
And it's like no one kind of understands. Everyone's vilifying, Shadowwing is vilifying Alphabet Squadron. There's a really good example of how Alphabet Squadron vilifies Shadowwing at the very end, when basically they're trying to secure this facility to escape the planet, and Alphabet Squadron thinks that Shadowwing is trying to secure the planet to try to perhaps detonate something in the core, which will cause it to just, a massive cataclysm, like an Operation Cinder-esque event. And it's like, because we did get to see a bit from Shadowwing's perspective this time, and you find out that, yeah, they're Imperials and, they're probably not doing the right thing, but most of them had reservations about Operation Cinder, but most of them, have kind of been indoctrinated and are in this really tight-knit fighter squadron or fighter wing. So I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe it's just that force which is driving her back towards the end. I didn't really get the feeling that she was going back as an undercover agent, although I wouldn't be surprised if that's what ends up happening, I guess.
I think they left plenty of room for it to go. However,
Mhm.
I'm with you. I was under the same impression that she's just going back. But if the very first page of the next book says like she's sabotaging something, I'd be like, yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, because she's just not a very strong character in a lot of ways, or at least she lacks certain convictions. Like we see that a lot in the last book, or maybe she's just human, I guess. But she's a really interesting character. I quite like her, and I will say I found this book was much less. One of my main problems, and I think one of the things that really turned me off the last book, was just it was very melodramatic in the way it was written. Um, and I noticed there was a lot less of that in this book, which I really kind of helped me get through it.
I definitely think they stepped it up a little bit, or Alexander Freed, like he made some changes from the first book that I really liked.
Mhm.
A big one being grandmother. I didn't feel like was a very compelling villain in the
I agree.
first book. She just wasn't around much. But he was building up Soren that whole time,
She was an
and then
absentee grandmother, yeah.
right, yeah, and Soren is in this book a lot.
Mhm.
So I think that he really improved in that area.
Mhm.
I was a little bit frustrated at how closely, like, it just all takes place on this one planet or in one
Yeah.
system.
We talked about that, I think, right after the book came out.
Yeah, and I tend to want things to be bigger in Star Wars books because
Me
that's
too.
what Legends was. But I fortunately Alexander Freed said that his plan for the third one is for it to be the big space opera. So like books 1 and 2 are really about the characters, but
Mhm.
we know them now, and
Yeah.
book 3 is going to be like the big one. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and I can actually see, if it does end up that Will or somebody kills Eric, I can see that being pretty emotional because he has put in the work for a good payoff at this point.
Like it will killing Erica would be rough.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like Chas would kill her.
She would do it no problem, I think.
No,
Yeah.
I feel like if someone from Alphabet Squadron kills Eureka, it's going to be Chas. Or they're all going to like hold hands and kill her together. I don't know.
I just think it'll be Will because the whole series seems to be kind of about just how all these people get swept up in war. So it'd be interesting to see the person who'd want to do it less have to do it, I guess.
Well, I mean, he's my favorite character of the squad so far. I really loved in the first book when he tried to communicate with, excuse me, Shadow Wing and like just talk to them, and it didn't work out, and then it did at the end. But then it kind of comes back to bite him in this one. Like they
Yeah.
know that they can kind of mess with him.
I think there
So
need a bit more payoff on that point.
yeah, it didn't really like
Yeah.
that one pilot's like about Will Lark. I have an idea, and I don't know what.
I was
Maybe it
waiting
pays
for
off later.
something. Like
Yeah.
I was waiting when he was trying to contact Shadow Wing at the end. I thought that was when the plan was kind of gonna form. But what do
I
you guys
wonder if
think
Nav,
of?
yeah, stopped it.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Well, it was just
That is
that he
true.
was that Blink was getting Will and Nath to kind of turn around and go back to the
Yeah.
Lodestar, which
Yeah.
Nath kind of wanted to do anyways to say it was the 204. So
Mhm.
that, yeah.
What did you guys think of Soren Key's like his there's that voice track. So like do you find Soren Key's kind of return to the Empire convincing? Because he doesn't seem like he enjoys killing, like he's not kind of torn up in the same way but that Erica is. But I don't know, like I just don't think that him being tracked by the New Republic in the last book is I don't know if that's convincing reason for him to return and lead the wing and stuff.
I guess I bought it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I think it's kind of like Erica, where it's just this is a survival thing,
Yeah,
and I'll
that's
do
true.
what I have to do. And yeah, he's not thrilled about it, but
Mm.
maybe he just feels like he doesn't have anywhere else to go. I don't think he's definitely not like fully on board with the Operation Cinder stuff. He kind of hates
Mhm.
the Emperor droid thing, the Sentinel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's an interesting point because yeah, he's not reveling in anything. I'm really curious to see if we see the Battle of Jakku in the third book.
I
how
would love to
he
see him
take
like
to that?
just squad wipe a rebel fighter squadron, because he is described as like a phenomenal pilot. Like he does like a scrimmage against the other shadowing pilots, and doesn't he say he would have killed like 7 or something, which is
Yeah.
standard to when he was, actually leading the squadron during the war. He's like the best, some of the best pilots in the Empire. So he's a real madman. What were your general thoughts on the book, though, Corey? Like, did you prefer this one to the last one, or?
Like, looking back now, I think I prefer the first one, but this one made me appreciate the first one more. Because I think there are parts of this that have a bit of the usual, like, second in a trilogy, a lot of setup for what's going to happen, or just the character development alone, which plot-wise means that if I'm going to go back and read one of them, it'll probably be the first one, and that's kind of how I rank that. But I still really enjoyed it. So I think when we go back and do our re-rankings, that'll probably bump the first one up a fair bit. And then this will kind of slide in where the first one was. But the one issue that I was having with this one was that there are so many points where characters could die, but you kind of knew they didn't. And it would happen repeatedly, to the point that I kind of started thinking that a lot of the main characters were just immortal, and I knew Kairos would be back. And it was just Karen and Ito where something finally happened as a consequence as far as their lives go. Like, they had a lot of personal, emotional consequences, but there were probably 5 or 6 times where people were in a situation where, like, oh, are they dead? No, we know they're not dead. And then
Call that the rise of Skywalker syndrome.
yes.
I think Karen had a really good death, though.
Yeah.
It was very good.
He was a really interesting character. I would have even liked to hear more about his time in that Imperial prison. But there have been some really good moments of like complete isolation from the war in both of these books that I thought were handled really well. The first one has that the moon they go to at the Jedi Temple. That's probably my favorite part of the book. And then this one, the planet the little planetoid they end up on is like very almost otherworldly, and the book just does a really
You
great
mean
job
the new continuity that the sequel trilogy's in? No, sorry, that's Elseworlds.
Yeah. Why are you bringing this shit onto the podcast, Corey?
Sorry. Because it's true.
Yeah, it's crazy how Kathleen Kennedy was there inside that Sith temple.
She actually came fully formed in 2014. Never did anything before then. She is a Sith construct, so.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that section. I was a little less interested in what the other characters are doing, especially, actually, yeah, I just wasn't as interested in the other characters, but they all had pretty good kind of individual storylines, I guess.
I totally agree with you on that, kind of the break from the war stuff, whenever they would sit down and chat with like the 61st, which was fun, that connection back to Twilight Company. I always like when he'll like describe a character enough so that you're like, oh, it's that person from Battlefront. That's cool. But yeah, anytime the characters get like a little time to breathe, I feel like he handles it really, really well, especially when even minor characters. I remember in the first Alphabet Squadron book when we were first meeting Will and Chas, and we also got to meet the rest of their squadrons. And I was like, I like all these characters, and then they were like dying every single chapter. I think he handles those smaller side characters really well.
I do like how like Renunja still gets brought up occasionally, or like they didn't just ignore that, which is one thing that you can maybe argue with the X-Wing series. There's so much action in there that like individual battles sort of lose their legendary status, where like the chase through the orbital cluster is mentioned like a dozen times in this book. Which was cool, I thought.
I guess in the timeline it hasn't been that long, whereas the X-Wing books span a little more time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is only a couple months. months after Endor now? Like, it can't be that long because Jakku hasn't happened yet.
No, I think it's about 6 months.
So how does
After,
this timeline work
right
in
in
with
between.
with Aftermath, Alex? Because basically the final one of the big reveals at the end is that Shadow Wing is being called in by Ray Sloan. So do you know anything about that? Because you're much better on the sort of canon continuity than I am. I haven't read Aftermath in like 3 years, so
Yeah. I think they kind of line up with each other where I think the first Alphabet Squadron is a little before the first Aftermath. I would guess that Shadowfall's about the same time as
Okay.
Life Debt. They don't make it clear. So I'm guessing, let's say 6 months, like right in between. There was a point where, yeah, Ray Sloan makes that call, and I thought for a second it was like, let's go to the unknown regions, and I was like, oh damn, we're jumping way ahead. But I was kind of disappointed that that wasn't the case, because I don't really need to see the Battle of Jakku again. I'd love to see maybe Shadowwing get the invitation to the unknown regions, and
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Soren's like, no. I want to see how he handles something like that.
So Alphabet Squad 3 is actually going to be, the main battle is Exegol, because we know that some Alphabet Squadron was there.
That would be interesting,
Potentially.
because the book kind of sets up like there's a difference between the truly evil Imperials, like the ones who do things like they kill planets and whatever else, and those are the ones who would be taken to Exegol, I guess. And then there's just everybody else who is...
Man, that would be crazy though, if the third book were like a 30-year thing.
I'd be in for that.
I would too.
Senior Quell for 30 years.
Like, and then they get the call to go to Exegol, and they're like, "Really, again?" Like,
God, imagine how brittle a 60-year-old Erica would be. She's already brittle in every scene she's in.
Nath is older than Palpatine.
Yeah, that would be cool though. I'd be in for that. So I don't remember, Alex, and maybe you do. How does Aftermath handle Operation Cinder? Because that's before the Aftermath trilogy, right?
It all came out like right at the same time. So the Aftermath book came out, and then I think Operation Cinder was introduced in Shattered Empire.
Oh, okay.
But then after that, so Life Debt and mostly Empire's End. Empire's End deals with Operation Cinder a lot. And the fact that it was kind of like all leading to the Battle of Jakku, and it was the purposeful destruction of both like the Empire and rebellious worlds, and just trying to bring it all tumbling down.
It is interesting how much continuity we're getting with that. I mean, we've had mentions of the observatories and stuff. I kind of thought that Lucasfilm might just sort of ditch that plot line now, because I don't know. I just thought maybe they'd think people don't care about it or whatever, but they put in a lot of work early on in the EU to sort of establish that stuff, and even had an appearance in Battlefront 2, so I'm kind of glad they're doing more on that.
Yeah, I think they knew that. I mean, it's kind of like Lost and the island and the hatch, and now there's like, oh, there's other hatches. So I think they knew that something like that would be a little breadcrumb they could drop every now and then, where you're like, oh, it's another observatory, what's inside this one? And we don't get to see in Shadowfall, except we know there's a ship. But
yeah,
it's just I guess an easy little thing to pick back up on and easily get excitement.
Yeah, I mean, they can very easily describe it too as that's how Palpatine that's how he found Exegol or whatever else he used the observatories, because there is even from what I remember, there is something about that in Aftermath. I think that's how Thrawn got his first name drop in the EU, if I remember correctly. But they say something about...
I think they knew he was coming back. I think they had announced he would be returning, but I think you're right.
Oh yeah, maybe the Rebels trailer or something had come out by then.
But then they were like, yeah, we can talk about him in books and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I do wonder about that, because I mean, Chuck Wendig did a lot of things that are little possibilities that some are followed up on and some aren't. So on Jakku, he mentions like a really tall blonde girl that they recruit as like one of the first new era of stormtroopers, where it's like, okay, he's clearly trying to say that this could be Phasma, but then that's obviously wiped away by the book Phasma. So I think Chuck was just trying to drop little things here and there to say like, could be, doesn't have to be. And then Lucasfilm is picking up on what they like and leaving what they don't.
Yeah, I wish he would have left the Fall of Coruscant alone, where it ends up being. Doesn't he end up having it largely due to some 12-year-olds who got in like a vent in the Imperial Palace?
Well, even then, it's like I don't think they did much. It's mostly just Masamita decides to surrender, and yeah, it's not that exciting, especially not compared to the old X-wing books.
Yeah, there's no like virus that's having people's skin fall off, so not quite as cool.
Yeah, so who even cares?
I don't
Then
think
Superstar
releasing
Destroyer
that book
busted.
now would be a great publicity move.
Yeah, maybe not. What did you guys think? Another issue I guess I had with the book is I didn't find Alphabet Squadron's plan to be very convincing. Like first of all, having Shadow Wing bite the bait to attack the planet alone seems as, you know, kind of like there's a lot of jumps, even if you are feeding intelligence to the enemy, I think. Then I guess I never really got a good idea of why they think they'll take this bait on the moon specifically, if that makes any sense.
It did seem like a lot of hoops to jump through.
My
But I
bigger
mean, it
issue,
didn't work, so
Yeah, exactly.
My bigger issue with the plan, like I'm fine with just going with there's parts of the plan that we didn't have space to talk about, so there was probably more to how they dropped that intelligence. I'm fine making that assumption, but Keyes' reasoning for doing if I was part of Shadow Wing, I wouldn't have trusted him when he turned back up, and when everything just immediately goes to shit, I would have been pretty out on him. Like,
Yeah.
man, wouldn't that have been interesting if like he and Erica switched places?
That would be interesting. I was kind of expecting something like that actually, but they do end up kind of taking him back in. He's an interesting character though, and it was nice to get the Imperial perspective. I can't say I care too much about any of the specific Imperial pilots though. They kind of just enter the void for me. Like, yeah, this is cranky Imperial. This is, you know, good flying Imperial.
I'm holding out hope for Blink. I still I want redemption for Blink.
well, what was the
Yeah.
name of the one with Chas in the cult that
Wasn't that Blink?
Yeah, I think it was.
was that Blink?
That was Blink. Yeah, because she had the voice box.
Right. Sadia Nettis? I think I mean her actual name.
Yeah.
Do you have
'Cause-
notes?
No.
I'm
I used to.
impressed.
We usually do, but I don't know. I just felt like Will larking this one and just flying with my heart instead of my mind.
With
You
these
know?
books, it felt like the themes were clear and strong enough that I didn't need to have like page notes of like where Corin slept with an otter. But
Yeah, if we could use like one character's perspective to rank the attractiveness of all the women, like you can in the X-wing book, then maybe notes would be.
that's
needed,
what's
but
really missing from this.
that little Michael Stackpolian, sex.
You know, I will say I do kind of forget until it happens that like Will's a bit of a ladies' man. Like
Yeah.
he does the first time we meet him in Alphabet Squadron, he's like waking up with somebody, and then in this one he's like being a little flirt, but he just spends so much time fighting he doesn't have the time.
Yeah, Nath
Yeah, and
tries to
there's
set him up
even-
with one of the soldiers at one point.
Yeah. Now
I
it's
feel
like, hey, like go take care of that, and Will's like, all right.
I feel like Freed kind of backs down on being clear on what's happening anywhere, because you get euphemisms that may or may not be euphemisms, like I can't believe I shared her bunk, which like that could mean something. It could have just meant that they were sleeping on the ground and on the bed like what we saw. But in most situations that would be a euphemism, and I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's just weird. Like there's no real reason to back down from it because like in the YA books, like everyone's getting laid.
Yeah.
The young
Yeah.
adult books have more of that than the adult books.
Lost
Yeah.
Stars has like the two main
Yeah.
characters having like a bang session that had been in the works for like 20 years, and like it was pretty hot, not gonna lie.
I'm still used to like talking like I'm on my channel. That's just I was trying to avoid saying bang sesh, but I'm glad you're here.
We talk about the Salonian fuckholes that.
Just for the podcast. On the actual
Yeah.
videos we don't do this. We still get a few
when
emails
I cover
about
the
not
Swarm War,
swearing.
I am going to talk about the giant bug orgies that they have.
But yeah, I've known friends who just like get drunk and borrow each other's beds while the other person sleeps on the floor, and it's never been a huge emotional thing. So the fact that this had such an impact for Chas, like I don't know if something happened or what.
Yeah, do you think, I mean, did your buddy ever wake up in your guest bed and then the next morning be like, I can't believe I shared your bunk?
Really?
Yeah,
It's not that big of a deal, man.
Oh, you're welcome to it anytime.
Look, my whole family's here, and I just asked if he wanted some toast.
I do like, on that note, I do like Chas is, like, she's struggling with dependency and whatnot, and I thought that was interesting. And it almost kills her because she wakes up after having basically flown around the sector doing nothing and drinking all night. There's this huge battle, and she's like, shit, I've got no fuel left because I was out hot rodding last night.
Yeah, and then Quell gets to basically do exactly what she was planning to do, just better and successfully.
Yeah, she eats a rock at it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always appreciate like the creative tactics that are written into any of the X-Wing books. All of them really do it, but anytime you can find a weird way to blow up another ship, it's always fun.
I really, really liked the battle between the Lodestar and the ISD. I thought it was really cool, and they both hit the planetary shield. I really, really disliked this audiobook because the narrator just was not good. Alex, you were saying, because I told you her name, and you said she played Aunt Beru, I think.
I don't remember who was narrating it, and I must have Googled her when you told me.
Okay, but yeah, it's just like an old lady. Like, she would have been perfect for grandmother, but especially for the guy characters, it just ends up making everyone sound very weird. But the part where like the two ships crash into the planetary shield, they've got like this awesome soundtrack, and there's like a big sound effect and stuff.
Isn't just her doing like
No, it was really good. And that whole battle I thought was cool. It's nice to see. I like when, especially more of the military focused Star Wars has these moments where like there is something like a planetary shield, and like that impacts the battle in a big way because it just makes it a bit more interesting. So I was a fan of that.
It's fun in the books where they do get to take the time to set up, what a planetary shield does and what it's good for and what it can't like stand up to. And in the movies, it's just like a reason to put AT-ATs on the ground. Like, well, we can't shoot it from the sky. There's a shield.
I've decided that shields in Star Wars make absolutely no sense because ships are supposed to have these shields you can't fly through, but like everyone flies through them all the time.
And you can't shoot lasers into them, but you can shoot them out.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, are we supposed to believe that they're putting the shield down for a second before the lasers go out? Like, and if certain authors had written that scene from The Last Jedi, or even Episode 3 where Kylo Ren goes through that shield, like he would have just splattered. So I don't know. I can't figure it
out. The more you try to actually make Star Wars make sense, the more insane you go.
Yeah, try balancing a stupid RTS over it and having people tell you, it's actually supposed to go through shields for 14 years. But there's my favorite example of shield weirdness is the Corellian trilogy, where Han is testing the shields and he just sets the Falcon down in the hangar on the shields.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that ever comes up anywhere again, but it's presented in that book as like a standard shielding test done by most ships to see how long you can sit on your shields on the ground before they give out.
Well, this one has something kind of like that where Will is flying through like a really narrow tunnel and his shields are kind of impacting on the sides of the wall.
It felt to me more like he was using that as a gauge of when he needed to shift rather than it like bouncing him off.
Yeah, I just mean it's kind of like an example of the shields interacting with something.
I think that was more a way of just like building tension in the scene. Be like, oh, the cave is so close, it's knocking off of the shields. But like, it's just everything works the way it needs to work in any given moment.
No, actually,
there's gonna
Alex,
be
this you may not be aware of this, but all this actually happened, and we're trying to figure out exactly how it went down. Uh, there's no such thing as an inconsistency in Star Wars.
Just something we don't understand yet.
Yeah, we need the source book.
Well, it's gonna be a good YouTube video, so you guys can laugh all you want, but I'm putting 3 ads on it.
3 ads and 3 arrows.
Actually, I'm 100% working on a video about Star Wars shields not making sense, so I just want to do a little research mid podcast before you guys could think about it too much.
I'm fine for it. Just send me half that ad rev.
And send me the other half. So don't even bother with the video.
Alex, is this your favorite Star Wars canon series right now?
Well, how many series have there been?
Yeah.
Thrawn, this,
Aftermath.
oh yeah, Aftermath. Yeah, I think so. The Thrawn, I loved the first Thrawn book, and didn't really care for alliances or treason.
Me too.
I really like Empire's End, and Life Debt was pretty good, and Aftermath was okay. But these are 2 books that I've been pretty enthusiastic about. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
This kind of does what I've enjoyed the most with a lot of the new canon stuff, because having the original trilogy and then 30 years later knowing exactly what the state of the galaxy is, or even having some of the major characters covered in things like Rebels, where like you know what's going to happen to Thrawn, so it's hard to do anything in alliances and treason that it's going to go anywhere. But it's the same kind of thing that I like with Rogue One and The Mandalorian, where it's somewhat connected to what's going on and it gives you an idea of what's going on in the galaxy. But as far as the actual specific characters go, they could go any direction, so it's not a foregone conclusion, and there's a lot more room to maneuver. Whereas when you stick with those larger characters like Thrawn, then yeah.
Well, I feel a bit like I'm not a bit unsure about the new Thrawn trilogy, because like I do wonder how much can happen, because we know Thrawn's entry point after that into the Empire. We know, I guess we don't really know what happens to the Chiss Ascendancy. Well,
Do you mean
we
like
do sort of,
the
I
one that
guess.
Chaos Rising is starting, or like
Yeah.
okay.
Ascendancy trilogy, I think it's
Yeah.
called.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, and I do think going to be very, very different than any other new canon book.
I'm about a third of the way through it, and so far I'm really into it. And there have been times where I've been like, I forgot I was reading a Star Wars book, and I mean that in a
Really?
good way.
Hmm.
Like it's pretty cool. And the worry you have, I would say I don't have that.
Okay, that's good.
It's pretty cool. I
I've
look
read,
forward to
like-
hearing what you think.
Yeah, I've read like just a couple paragraphs through different points of the book, and it does seem like it's almost
You monster.
yeah, just based on what I read in like the first chapter, for example, it does seem like it's almost set in a completely different universe, because it is, it's Chiss stuff. Like it's in the same galaxy, but it seems like it's got a very its own thing going on. But I haven't read very much yet.
What Justin does is he has a list of keywords that whenever he gets an ebook, he goes and
It's
searches for
100%
those
true.
specific things, and if it comes up, he sees what context it's in. If it doesn't, then he just moves on to the next thing.
I'll
Can
tell
I-
you that's 100% true, and I'll tell you what it was for Thrawn. I looked up Grisk. That was my first one. I looked up Vong, just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
I looked up Coruscant, Palpatine, Outbound Flight, Star Destroyer, Cruiser, Dreadnought. What else was it? But yeah.
See,
I'm not-
Justin
I was
is
gonna
the
ask you for,
first.
like one of your keywords.
Justin is the first phase of something Google is trying to auto-generate videos. That's why he's never on actual video himself, because it just picks up
It's
those
not even-
keywords and generates the video.
It's not even for videos, because I won't be able to make videos about it forever. It's actually just because I want to know. Like I'm not spoiler averse, I guess. Like for Alphabet Squadron 2, I looked up Mon Calamari Cruiser Mon Cal, and I told you, Corey, after I got the solicitation copy, I was like, I didn't see Mon Cal show up once in the book. That's a little worrying. And all the cruisers were cruiser carrier.
You know what's interesting though? There should have been one
know.
MC-75 in there.
Yeah.
But they got the and now I'm blanking on the name. The
It's
Vanguard
the,
Squadron's cruiser.
yeah, the
Nebulon B.
Temperance.
That yeah.
They list it as a Nebulon B in the book, but it should be an
Canonically now it's in.
MC-75.
Hmm.
Yeah, the wiki page has something on that. I guess Matt Martin's clarified, and it's because that was the first thing. I was like, Temperance, what? That's but yeah, it canonically it's been changed to an MC-75. I guess they're gonna fix that in later editions of the book. Because I was reading my early edition, so I was wondering if it was just a mistake, and then I checked the new one and it was still there. So
It's like I wonder if they changed that in the game, or like
yeah,
I wonder if it was just a miscommunication between Lucasfilm and Freed, or if it was like we were gonna do Nebulon Bs as the big capital ship, but then swapped it out, and I don't know.
yeah, or it might have even just been that like the MC-75 in Squadrons hadn't been named yet. Yeah, I don't know.
Or the 75 in Squadrons gets destroyed, and then they just name a Nebulon B after it.
I was really hoping before I read this book that the Lodestar would appear in Star Wars Squadrons. I mean, it could still happen because we don't know.
I think it probably will.
You think it will?
Oh wait, no, you're right. It
Yeah,
blows
it got
up.
blown up.
So I guess we haven't said it explicitly, but there is a fair amount of tie-in between Squadrons and this book. Like Vanguard Squadron comes up in Shadowfall, and it's also the squadron that you play as. It's like the main story squadron in Squadrons. In case anyone's not sure what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, Squadrons is a video game. If you don't know,
It's set in the Star Wars universe, and Star Wars takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I was just trying to clarify things for the listener.
No, I was actually clarifying too.
And I was
We just
being
said
a jerk.
Squadrons a bunch of time, but there's definitely at least somebody listening who doesn't know what that is.
Yeah, well, I think like Vanguard Squadron is kind of the big connection there, and a lot of people may not remember from the trailers and everything that is the Squadron. So
Yeah,
is it
And
before
we
or
do see
after?
Hera as well. We don't. I don't think we know
Right.
yet, do we, Alex?
I think it's probably going to be concurrent. I
Yeah.
mean, Hera leaves near the start of this book or the middle of the book to go do something, and they mention Vanguard Squadron's top secret mission. So
Yeah.
I think she's going to go. She will appear in Squadrons, and then maybe at the end, they'll have Vanguard go off and help Alphabet Squadron. I doubt we're actually going to see that mission play out
Yeah.
in the game, but it could just be like all right, on to the next thing. Here we go.
Yeah. I gotta sneeze. Hold on.
So that was actually kind of going back to what I was saying was my one main gripe with the book earlier. Was as soon as Hera left and wasn't going to be there for the battle, it felt kind of obvious to me that something pretty bad was going to happen to Lodestar, because there was no other real reason for Hera to leave other than maybe give Will command. But if Will is going to get command of any part of the overall mission, then you kind of need the captain out of the way as well. So yeah, I don't know if it was going to leave or if it was going to explode, but I felt one of those two things would happen. And then Hera leaving means that they're not going to do the same thing twice. Like Lodestar isn't just going to leave as well. But
I mean, I definitely think that's just a downside of big old mixed media shared universe where it's cool when you have all these connections, but also it's like, okay, because I know this happened in this story, I can pretty much see what's going to happen over here, kill some of that tension. Kind of like that's part of the reason I didn't really like Thrawn Alliances or Treason.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, this takes place over the course of the week or a couple days where Thrawn goes missing in Star Wars Rebels. So like, how much can really happen here?
You're not worried about that? Are you worried about that with High Republic, Alex?
Not really. I mean, that to me seems like it's so far removed. It's something that even Legends didn't really touch. That it could be anything, and we're going to get all these new characters. Except I'm sure Yoda and Yaddle might pop up, but I think we're going to focus on new characters, and I think we're going to see a very different Jedi Order. So I'm very hopeful for the High Republic.
I guess, yeah, I'm starting to feel that way now. I guess my initial thoughts when it came out was that what kind of galaxy-shaking event can happen? It's what, 300 years before Phantom Menace?
I think
Sounds
200.
200? I guess I was just kind of thinking what sort of galaxy-shaking event can happen 200 years. That's like there's, and I guess they'll add in traces of it later, but that's not kind of, you know.
Well, I kind of get the gist that, yeah, 200, just double checked. I kind of think it's going to be maybe not hugely significant for the galaxy, but more the Jedi. Like what we've
Mhm.
seen of the Jedi, they look so different.
It's
They
true,
look so
actually.
flashy.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see kind of something happen where they're like, oh, we got to change the way we're doing things.
Mm-hmm.
When maybe they don't have to, but it's going to be the start of their decline into where they've kind of lost their way in the prequel era. So I think it's going to be something more intimate and focused on the Jedi Order.
Do you think the Sith are going to be involved? Like, will there be a Sith Lord behind the scenes here?
Maybe. I hope they're not in charge of like the big bad. Like I hope the Nihil are kind of their own thing.
Yeah.
But I also think it would be really fun to see what the Sith are up to at this point in time, because I really love cat and mouse style stories.
Mhm.
So the Sith at this point are like, okay, there's only two of us, and we got to be careful. So I'd really love it if they were trying to do something, and then like the Jedi start to look over at them, and they're like, "Oh, run away! Like we can't be seen."
Yeah.
I think there's some really cool storytelling to explore there.
If it's anything like Legends, Plagueis would probably be one of them by then, I think. Because we know that he was they say that he's been apprenticed to Tenebris for longer than most humans live, so he could be, or he might not be.
Be like a brand new baby.
Yeah.
It's like, and they haven't said who or what Plagueis is exactly in canon. Like
He's Snoke, actually.
Yeah.
This was pretty clearly established.
It's like I think they'd probably try to keep him immune if they could.
Think so too.
But it'll be interesting if they ever bring him back up.
I'll be surprised if Tenebris is the same. And we know that the other episode 9 that we didn't get was going to have Plagueis' master in it. And it wasn't Tenebris, it was something.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the guy that looks like a Zepho.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My hope for something Sith related in that period, because it's going to be a bunch of different things coming out, would be kind of a book like Plagueis, where there's not really a direct confrontation between Plague. There's elements of that, but they're not necessarily. It's showing the Sith influence on what's going on without making Plagueis and Tenebris or Palpatine kind of the ones that need to be stopped for what's going on. So keeping them in the background like that, while having a book focused on them, is definitely possible. It's something we've seen before, and I think that would be really cool to get, while still keeping the Hill in their own little area.
I think that's different enough. Like what I'm excited about the High Republic is it'll be different, and we're gonna get like these space Viking people, and that's just different than the Jedi fighting people with red lightsabers, whether there's 2 or 1,000 of them. It's just something we haven't seen before. Yeah. But I still, I totally
we had
agree.
Space Vikings in Star Wars Legends. They were called the Toph.
Okay, well.
And they were beautiful.
If they bring the Nagai and Toph back, that'd just be
wild.
That's probably the thing I would least expect. No, Abominor. It's the Abominor.
I did a video on the Abominor the other day, and I watched the entire the droids little short movie that they're in.
He's on Vanguard mentioned once in this.
Yeah, what the hell? On my backstory. He's just an angry furnace.
I would have told you a couple years ago, it's like, oh, well, they're never going to bring that like living mountain back. And then they kind of did in the Star Wars comics, so never say never.
Yeah.
Yep. Jackson's back. Lots of
Jackson came back? I don't even know if you're joking.
No, he's been back for a while.
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
He's mostly been in Star Wars Adventures.
Yeah.
So it's like the kids comic anyway.
Okay. That's probably how.
Alex, what's the canon take on Ortolan feet?
Who?
The Blue Elephant Man. Do they have 2 feet and legs, or is it
just... Ortolans.
Ortolans, yeah.
That's just I've seen them both ways, but the most I've seen them are 2 legs and no arms. So hold on. So this is no longer canon. It's more of this situation.
I'm a little behind on video, but I'm looking forward to whatever you just did.
I just happen to have Max Rebo sitting behind me on
Oh
my
yeah,
piano.
there it is. Oh yeah, well, you got multiple Max Rebos back there.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's if I'm gonna have my piano, I gotta have the best piano player there to inspire me.
I like
Do you
that.
play with your feet as well, or?
Not well, but I do aspire to be everything.
Otherwise,
Max
you're just
was.
not living up to his example.
You
He's
ever
just
think about
looking
how
at you in
Max Rebo
disappointment.
is just hanging dong on that piano like all day?
Well, no, the ortolan genitalia is the nose.
I guess that's why I was so enamored by him. Can't
How
look
did you
away.
do that whole video and not bring that up, Ek?
I don't know. It's probably my favorite video I've ever done.
The disturbing secret.
Yeah.
What
It's just the
Lucasfilm
beginning.
doesn't want you to know.
It's like in the foul bowels of Jabba's dark palace. I spent so much time editing that too to make it look creepy. Like I would make him red outline and stuff. It was good.
So, are you guys firmly on the Irika's back being Imperial train?
I'm not firmly on it, but I do think, yeah, I think she's going to die in the next book, and she'll die as maybe in some sort of sacrifice. But I think that's all that she can really do. I don't know.
really hope it doesn't go that direction, because Star Wars has enough dead people who needed to be redeemed, and then yeah, they're dead.
Yeah, like I want Erica to keep on, because she is like
Mm-hmm.
the defector that, and there's been plenty of Imperial defectors, but this is the one where it was like she was almost pushed into it, and now she's going back, and that's very rare to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would love for her to actually get some redemption and actually survive, because I really want, like, someone has to do it.
Yeah.
Someone has
Mhm.
to show us
And she's
what
been,
it means.
yeah, like so far this has been my favorite attempt by Star Wars to do a redemption arc, because you're kind of seeing what her internal thought process is, going from the guilt, denial, struggling to find her way in without having to own up to what she did, and now kind of getting this realization that they know I have to own up to it somehow. So if she just dies, I feel like that would be a huge lost opportunity to explore something that Star Wars has not been good at exploring. And I just really hope,
because you haven't read my Jason Solo fanfic yet.
you know, Jason
he's
is my
dead.
favorite Star Wars character, so I read all the Jason Solo fan fiction. But
I don't know. Like I guess for me, maybe it's. I guess what I was trying to say is maybe it's she doesn't get fully redeemed. Like I don't know. Maybe she doesn't ever find peace. That's kind of dark, but I mean.
But that would be more like that would be a fine way to do it if she's living that way. But we've had plenty of Star Wars characters who maybe did something nice, then they died, but they never really had to come to terms with the terrible shit they've done, or never had to, like, at least Irika at this, yeah, like Irika has had to look at the people she's hurt to some extent, or people who knew what she did, and have that even after she's defected. Whereas Vader, he's got that minute or two with Luke where Luke has forgiven him, but he's never had to spend any time with other rebel soldiers or civilians of the galaxy. And kind of the same thing with Ben, where Rey kind of forgives him, but you don't see what everyone else thinks about it. And Yurika at least had to stand in front of Will, Nath, Chas, and she started just kind of taking whatever they gave her. And that's at least a good first step that Vader never had to take. And we almost got that with some of the Force Ghost appearances in like Trusa Bakura, but Vader's take there was like, Leia, Luke likes me, why don't you?
Yeah, that's a good point. You convinced me. Don't want to fight about it. You're way too passionate about this. It's kind of creeped me out and making me feel a little awkward for all the listeners.
I am really looking forward to this third book, and
yeah, me too.
I just hope Irika doesn't die that way. So I feel like there's a lot of potential with that.
What are you
Yeah.
hoping for the other characters? Like Nath had a bit of a transition in this book too, like a more quiet one. He became a little bit less self-centered, I guess, because he had the opportunity to run. He has all his money, but he didn't.
Yeah, I like seeing him warm up to Will more and more.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like Will again is my favorite. I'm scared for him. Like that feels uh something I've taken some improv classes, and something they teach us for a scene in storytelling is like ask yourself how to make this worse. And so
Yeah.
I see myself doing that like when I read a book. I'm like, God, what is the worst thing that could happen? Will could die. So I'm like terrified of that. But I'm also I don't want to see him kind of lose what makes him Will. I don't want him to become so jaded that like he feels like he can't go home, which is something he's wanted this whole time, or uh, lose that bit of him that wants to try to save lives on both sides. That's my biggest worry, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like
Yeah.
Nath, a lot of his story is probably going to end up being quieter, like going from being this selfish person who's getting to know these people because of what they can give him. So I don't know that we'll get too much big stuff there. He's kind of there as a mentor for Will now. He's probably my biggest. Like, if I were to pick one of the four or one of the five, I always forget Kairos as a character to die. I'd probably pick Nath. Uh, and then Will, I feel like his is more going to be he wants so much to go home, but he's also the kind of person that would never go home while there's still other people fighting. And I think that's going to kind of be what his life is, where he everything's just going to be this is my one last mission, but then oh they're still
Yeah,
doing this, so did one more mission, and
Mhm.
then 60 years later he's new Wedge.
on Exegol.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And you brought up Kairos, and I kind of like shrugged because she really got the short end of the stick in this book.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to learning more about her, and I think now that uh, Karen and Aito are gone, that'll affect her. And hopefully we get to see a lot more of
Mhm.
her in book 3 and learn a lot more about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she did have a few cool moments. Like she went berserk on the Empire a few times.
It's just she was mostly healing for
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all of the. I feel like she didn't really get an arc the way everyone else did.
Yeah, no, and she had kind of a surprising arc in the first book as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, you're right about that. I'm sure we'll get something juicy with her next book besides having a weird face, which we all knew.
I mean, it sounds like Freed has this whole thing planned out, which I
Yeah.
fully appreciate.
Yeah, me too.
So I trust that
Yeah.
Kairos has plenty more to do.
Yeah, I think now with Karen and Ito gone, where it was just easing
Mhm.
into the little bits of her backstory we know there, she kind of takes everything, all the roles that trio was doing, and so any resolution to their storyline will have to come from Kairos.
Yeah.
So I do think that we're going to get a lot more Kairos. Maybe she'll actually say words more often now, but
I thought when they were in that cult place and they described someone as being wrapped up in with tubing and stuff, and it ended up being an Imperial pilot. I thought they were talking about Kairos at
yeah,
first.
me too. I thought it was like that was another person they rescued, because now it's still not entirely clear where
Mhm.
Kairos is or was.
Yeah.
Unless she
Yeah.
like did Hera bring Kairos with her?
Yeah. That reminded me too, when Karen sends out that message, that would have been an easy way for I think a lesser book to have just kind of dealt with Erika's guilt, like thrust it out into the open, and then it's like, okay, that plot is removed. So I'm kind of happy that there's like multiple levels to her betrayal, because not only did she stick around for Operation Cinder, she never really left. And just no one magically forgave her right away. She didn't
Yeah.
come in and save everyone. She had to freaking leave.
Yeah, I was getting prepared for like Will to just say, "Oh, you did all this bad stuff, but hugs, we forgive you." And it would have been really easy to just do that, have them stay as this happy family, and try to just put it on the bonding they did in the previous book. But I'm again really glad that we're following this arc through to a different conclusion that actually makes Irika go and face what she did to some extent. Whether that's her turning away from it or actually trying to do something about it is still up in the air. But I think both of those are much better options than just saying, oh, well, you helped us last book, so we're good friends now.
Yeah. I was on like a little bit surprised that Will was fully on board, like shunning Erica,
Yeah.
and I was happy about it. Like, he does have limits.
Yeah.
For like, maybe not everyone is good.
Well, when they all thought she was dead, I thought the reactions that they all had were really good character moments for them almost, where Nath is like, yeah, she's dead, but who really hasn't done terrible things? If Chas and Will want to shun her, great. But with Will, he now, with her gone, he's not going to have this opportunity to condemn her or forgive her. And I forget what the line was, but there was a point where he was thinking about that, and I thought that was really good.
Yeah. And then even Chas is like, she kind of, despite herself, feels sad.
I slept in her bunk.
Yeah. Well, she's like, she betrayed us, but she can't help but kind of feel a little bit sad. Speaking of sad, how about ITO's death? What'd you guys think about that?
Oh, I liked the way that they kind of eased into it, of him like sticking her with the needle.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you doing?
He's
like, well, it's helping. It's feeding off of pain and stuff. So I'm just helping. And slowly realizing that he's just fully reverted to like, I'm a torture droid.
That need torturing. Yeah.
That's my favorite part of either book so far. At first I was thinking, why is this section taking so long? Like, just let her in the thing. But then like I didn't even realize what was happening. And then we got that, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I quite liked ITO too, especially at the end of the first book. Like, he's like, yeah, we're friends. And I also like how Irika had a moment where she regretted how she treated her first droid.
Yeah.
She was like, he was a real bro at the end of the day. And I'm like, yeah, he was. Like,
I do like that ITO got shut down by sticking in essentially a corrupted flash drive.
Yeah. She's like, guess what? I didn't safely eject this one.
Yeah, he was probably my favorite character, so I am kind of sad about that. I don't think their plan to leave Cairn off in the middle of the desert was a good one.
It wasn't a good one, but like, one thing this book did really well actually is it put the characters in very, very desperate, unpleasant situations. Like, there's the bit where they're on that planet and they're just like exhausted, and the book does a really good job of kind of transferring that to the reader. And then there's other people in the underground on the big city world. Chas is stuck in the cult, so I think it did a good job of making them seem very desperate and hard done by for a while. Yeah. Corey, you want to contribute?
No, I thought Alex had something to say about the previous point, so I was just gonna let him go with that. But
no. I just agree.
Okay. All right, we took a vote. We're all on the same page.
We did it.
The only thing I guess I want to say is I did like the first third of the book, which was kind of just purely about occupying and taking the planet. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was like a realistic, well, not realistic, but for the Star Wars universe, I thought it was a logical thing for like a battle group of that size to do. It does always feel weird to me when there's like 10 X-Wings responsible for holding this like whole system with like an Ecumenopolis on it and stuff.
Yeah.
That's just a classic like issue of scaling, I guess.
I was surprised at how prevalent this book got to be at some points, where like they're seeing riots in the streets because there's no real strong leadership, and the civilians are going crazy. And I was also really taken aback at how, like, so this whole system is orbiting a black hole, and it's like, this place is going to die. Why do we care that much?
Yeah.
And
true.
I was like, oh, kind of like, our planet, which is like falling apart, but like, that's your home, and that's people want to stay there. So there were a lot of stuff and there was a lot of stuff in this book that really made me go like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
a lot of good parallels that were interesting.
Well, and like
I do
the
think
Imperial leadership was just, you have Keyes wondering the whole time, like, who was this person before she became the governor? It's like someone's random secretary that just felt like they could step up and take control in a really messy situation.
I was waiting for there to be a love-making scene between them.
You're waiting for that with everything, though.
Ever since he read Lost Stars.
Yeah. The horniest Star Wars book of all time, like by far.
I give it 10 stack poles.
But really though, like the first third of that book, or no, not even the first third, the first 2/3 of that book is just like, hey, they're gonna bang when they're older. And like yeah, I don't know. When I go back and bang in all their childhood places, it's like, come on. Very horny.
That book turned me into a little teenage girl. I was like, I'm into this.
Me too, man.
I shipped Thane and Sienna so hard.
When you started that by saying that book turned me, I wasn't sure where you were going to go with the next word.
Turned me
rock hard the whole time. That's a quote.
I don't know what our episode on Lost Stars is going to be like now, Justin.
Let's just read it to each other.
Yeah.
All right, so Alex is coming back for that one.
Corey insisted he be off camera this whole episode. He turns back on for a second, just sweating profusely. God damn, that was hot. We haven't gotten Thane and Sienna's anything else from them, have we?
There was one reference book that mentioned Thane. He discovered Dakar. That's it.
Epic.
That's all we got.
Not everyone
sure
can
happy.
be of galactic significance. Sometimes it's nice that they just go off into the sunset.
I
Bang off into the sunset.
But they like, well, actually, we won't spoil it for you because you haven't read it yet, have you,
No,
Corey?
I haven't.
Okay. All right, cool.
Well, he knows they bang.
Yeah, well,
The first
apparently
time
it's
they
not
appear-
hidden very well.
The first time they appear is not children, and they have that little cave they're in, and you're like, it's gonna happen. We'll read that soon because it is a really, really good book.
It's very good.
Yeah, I've
like,
only
it's
heard
a-
good things, and now I've heard a mix of good and horny things about it. So
It's romance with Star Wars happening in the background, basically.
well, isn't one of the 17 upcoming shows being made by someone who primarily has done like rom-coms before? So maybe we'll get like Lost Stars, the TV show.
I mean, Lost Stars even had like a manga adaptation, I believe. Like, it's
Oh, yeah, it
really,
did.
yeah.
It's got its own
There's that
subsection on
one-
For Affinity.
No, there's that one ship, that one shot from the manga where it's an Imperial fleet and there's like 100 Super Star Destroyers. It's really funny.
So
Someone
Dark
sent that
Empire.
to me and they
I
were
love
just
that you
pissed.
notice stuff like that. I never ever
So
would.
someone sent that to me in like 2018, just furious about it. They're like, they should be Star Destroyers, not Super Star Destroyers, because there's literally just like 30 on. It's like a small Imperial battle group meets.
No, that is a
all
small
of our
group by
Star Destroyers.
by Dark Empire standards. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah. See if I can find it. Lost Stars.
So now for every episode, Justin, you need to submit your list of words that you Control F'd in each ebook.
Honestly, that's pretty fun.
That is fun, actually. I will do that. Also, here, I'm going to share. Jeez. Fucking trouble with that word, didn't I? Hold on. I'll put it in the YouTube chat if you guys have that open.
All right, and I think
Well, it didn't work.
well, good job. I think I only
Yeah.
mentioned it to you, Ek, but we normally do emails at the end of the show. Since we have Alex here, I think there were 2 emails that we got that were specifically about the book. I don't know if you have that open, Justin. If you
not.
want to read those 2 questions out.
I just said I don't have it open, Corey. Well, like, why the fuck would you put me on the spot like that?
Well, I was going to talk some more while you had time to open it because
All right,
we're
okay,
professionals. Not really. And because I can't open it right now because I'm filming or I'm not filming, it's not 1996. I'm recording my Discord on the other screen, so I can't I can't open it. This is all on you. And I hope that's been enough time for you to open the 2 emails.
It's wanting me to put a password in and verify. Oh god, oh fuck. Okay. I got to open on my phone.
So we will do the other email questions because it's been a few weeks on the next episode that we do, because that's going to be the whole re-ranking. That probably won't be super long. And I'm just going to repeat 2 questions on Alphabet Squadron here. Do you have any final thoughts on the book before we get to those questions, though, Alex?
I like it. I look forward to the next one.
They're actually putting that on the cover of the next book.
I hope so. I'll send that.
The book that Star Wars Explained is saying he's
I got your
looking
tagline.
forward to.
It's a book from Star Wars Explained. That's all. I just sent you that picture, by the way, Corey.
No, I mean, I really like these characters. I am excited to know that the next one is going to be a more expansive tale. It feels like it'll be a better balance between just character work and a bigger Star Wars story that I appreciate. If you can hear my dog chewing,
sounds cute.
I apologize, but he's just going to town on an antler down there.
All good. For me, I will say, I don't know, I guess we'll do all 3 of us. I went into this series very negative. So I read the book at first, I didn't like it. I got about a third of the way through Alphabet Squadron. I didn't like it. I was like, Corey, this is painful. But this book especially really turned me around. So GG, Alexander Freed. Appreciate you. Hope you didn't get too offended by me not liking your book for a while. Corey?
Yeah, when we first said we were going to do Alphabet Squad for 2 episodes ago, like, you kept saying, it's not that good. So I went in with low expectations, but I really liked the first one. I really liked this one. And I think the 3rd book might be other than Squadrons, the Star Wars thing that I'm most looking forward to right now.
More than Mando?
Yeah, actually.
Interesting. Cool.
Like, I am looking forward to The Mandalorian, but some of what we know about it has kind of lowered my expectations a bit. But that's probably more for a different episode. But yeah, like, I really like what's going on with the story here. Some of the parts that I found a bit weaker in the first one definitely got improved upon or shored up in this one. And I think there's a lot of good places the story can go, and doing stuff that I think Star Wars has not done super well before, like I was talking about with the redemption arc, that we seem to be on the right track with it. So yeah, that's kind of my takeaway from the series so far. And if Del Rey wants to tell me tomorrow when it's going to be coming out, then I would appreciate that.
Okay. So we've got a few questions for Alex here. First is from Justin, who asks, Alex, X said you completely wiped out his squadron at one point in Star Wars Squadrons. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You can watch it at Star Wars Explained YouTube channel. There's my footage. Happened one time. Probably won't happen again.
The next one is from Callum. He's got a few questions, which I'll include. I'll just have Alex answer them, I guess. Because...
Well, did Mark actually come up with a name for us all to have to use for Squadrons yet? Because I don't think any of us really cared that much.
Alex, you sent me a good idea. I think Grog Squadron.
Yeah, Grog Squadron sounded pretty fun.
I like that a lot.
We
I'm fine
have a couple beers, have a couple grogs. We go for a fly.
I love it. All right, boys, let's go for a rip.
I think I drink better when I fly.
Alex, you can't smoke a dart and fly an X-ray at the same time.
Watch me.
Only if you're a TIE pilot.
Yeah.
Rebels can do it all they want.
So the first question from Callum, do any of you get slightly annoyed whenever a book states that Nebula MB carries fighters, but we've never seen it? I do think about that most times. They're
it's got
usually
the little
described as being
hooks
like
and
attached
stuff.
to
Yeah, we've seen that.
Well, they're described as leaving a hangar in.
I mean, hangar doesn't
think
have
this
to be
book and the
inside. I
last
have
one.
coat hangers and stuff. It's more like that.
I
It's
wonder
hangar
if
with an E.
Alexander Freed wrote like Nebulan B and meant to like control F find replace with MC75 at some point and just forgot.
He meant to do it with
Possible.
Grisk, actually.
Here's another one for you, Alex. Also, you guys, Alex usually only responds to fans if you pay him money. So let's say big thanks to the only Star Wars podcast on the block, Tapcaf Transmissions, for getting him on. We're footing the bill for this one. Alex, do you think it's good that Star Wars canon has limited the number of clones of Palpatine in the clone army?
I know how this ends.
Yeah, because
Hold
there's
on,
no
say
Sate
that again.
Pestage clone. There's no Sate Pestage, Isard, Thrawn, Luke clone, etc. Your thoughts on
That
that?
we know of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of clones outside of clone troopers. Cloning main characters is so frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Also, did you say I'm not getting paid for this? Did I?
No, I
did
said
we
we
just
footed. I
breeze
said
over
we
that?
footed
I
the
don't know.
bill. Yeah.
We only pay in Chuck E.
also-
Cheese tokens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Didn't they just go bankrupt? Oh no!
Look, let's not think too hard about it.
Can't
We
believe I
gotta-
signed that contract.
You gotta offload them somehow, buddy. Also, I was looking for your advice on a business proposal that Corey and I have been thinking over. It's going to be really big for the podcast. Basically, someone reached out to us and asked us if we would make a promotion for product. Just product. It's not that's the name. And I'm just wondering if you think that would be a good idea.
Just product. Honestly, that sounds like a fun, like big YouTube collaboration. To be like to get all of those like form emails that you get sent, and like, yeah, we'll all do a video for product.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were asked to talk about product for a minute and a half when we get $1,600, and we did, but they never sent us the check. And we're
Yeah.
doing it again, so
We've
we'll
talked
give
about
you a
product
third
like
of
10
it for
times
this
now.
one.
Well, did you show product on the screen?
There's many products on the screen. Like, that's a product. That's a product. You're
That's
surrounded by product. There's product in and around my hair. Like, it's, I don't know what more they want from us. I'm
I
about
can't
to
argue
sue
with
them.
that.
Are you gonna tell me this doesn't sound legit? Good day. I'm a representative of an advertising company. Like, who wouldn't start an email like that? Our company needs to advertise the product on the YouTube platform, and your channel is suitable for this. That sounds legit.
I don't know why you guys aren't just rolling in money.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Alex, for joining us on the show. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Anything that you're excited about?
Yeah,
before
I'm gonna
we,
plug something a little weird.
Sweet.
So I mentioned I take improv classes. It's a local Atlanta company, and they're having their 25th anniversary next Friday and Saturday. So they're doing a 25-hour live stream
Jesus.
at twitch.tv/Dad's Garage ATL. I'm actually wearing their shirt from a play they did called Wicket. It was a musical based on Wicked, but about Ewoks. They do a lot of Star Wars shows, actually, so I work with them quite a bit, but they're wonderful people, and I'll be on the live stream occasionally, so come hang out, support us
Sweet.
if you like what you see.
Can you say that one more time, just for and
Yeah.
we'll put it in the description of the podcast as well.
Twitch.tv/Dad's Garage ATL, and that will be on August 7th and 8th.
Sweet. And I'm sure if you guys also follow Alex on Twitter at Star Wars Explained or his YouTube channel, I'm sure there will be more notifying of that in the future.
There will be.
Also, let me just say, Alex, you are just barely wearing that shirt. You're almost busting through it. Every time I see Alex, he gets more and more jacked.
That's
And I'm
nice
not
of you
even
to say.
joking.
Getting into Lost Stars territory here, Justin.
Join me in my cave, won't you?
Wow.
Let's share a bunk together.
Shit. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for the podcast. I got stuff to do. Seriously, though, thanks again, Alex, for joining us. I gotta say, you are the favorite, my favorite guest for this podcast.
Oh,
Thank
definitely
you.
everyone's favorite guest.
All right, lead us out, Corey.
I just don't feel like there was anything better I can say than what's already been said after such a long emotional journey through this podcast. And we've learned a lot about each other. This is normally when Justin would just cut off the